and speaking of winning or losing, you ever notice like there's all this talk about like people always trying to get the best rates and the best rates and the best rates. But like if you look at um a 25 or 30-year mortgage and you let's say you keep doing 5-year renewals along the way, assuming you keep it till the end. So that's going to be what, 5 renewals that you come across? If I buy a house today and you buy a house 1 year from now, and we're both taking 5-year mortgages. Maybe I got a great rate today and then you 1 year from now you get a pretty not good rate. When my renewal comes up, maybe I get a shit rate because that's just where the economy is at the time.
Yeah.
But then 1 year later, your renewal comes up and now you win. So what I'm trying to say, my point is that throughout that lifetime, there's gonna be times where I benefit, times where you benefit. By the end of it, I don't think you or I will be better off. I think there's so many there's no crystal ball. Things are not always going to work out for one person or the other. So this whole idea of getting like the best rate and timing the market and doing that, it doesn't make any
This
sense.
is a challenge with when you empower people with information at your fingertips. I think it's great, by the way, that the consumer has access to tools and data that they didn't otherwise have, let's say a decade ago, even less than a decade ago. The problem with that is that you've empowered them so much to the point where it causes them to know too much of something that they maybe don't understand, and they're only thinking in like a short time horizon. So everybody's thinking for the next couple of years, but people that own homes should be thinking for the next 25 or 30 years, right? Unless you anticipate a move very soon, that's a different story. But to your point, and maybe an argument to something you said is like my whole argument around if you're buying a home, primary residence, our parents used to have a longer time horizon. People these days have a much shorter time horizon, so the rate's so much more important to them. You can apply the same logic to investors. I feel like investors are also going into investment properties with a short time horizon, and that was never the case. As investors, investors are always going into it with the mindset of, hey, I'm going to buy this property, I'm going to hold it for the next 30 years, and somebody else is going to pay this house off. But now people, I guess, have been spoiled by the fact that appreciation was as good as it was for that short period of time where they're like, "Hey, I can buy a $700,000 property today and then flip it a year or 5 years from now for 1.2 million." And that I think is where the problem lies, is that people have now shortened their horizon from 30 years to 5 years or less, and that's the challenge. But to your point, yeah, the rate is a constant challenge for people also because they're not thinking over the long run. It's just like buying a stock. Looking to invest now, you're never going to be able to buy Apple stocks for under a dollar, right? But if you buy now and look at the trajectory, you have to zoom out, look at the trajectory. Over the next 10 years, is your $300 stock going to be 500? And very likely that it will be,
Yeah.
but longer term horizon.
Yeah, you gotta like stick to like I guess get comfortable with delayed gratification and just stick to that, not be so impulsive with your decision making or following things so closely where it makes you feel uncomfortable and then you act or overreact and pull the trigger on things you shouldn't be doing.
But here's the thing though, I don't fault people for the decisions that they're making, for the shorter time horizons, for not thinking longer term for personal primary residence purchases. Um, Even for investors who are thinking much shorter term, like I don't fault them. And I think they have access to a lot more tools now, which again, I think is a good thing and it's a bad thing. But I also think there's a lot of like external influence from I don't want to peg all realtors like this, but like realtors, as an example, have a lot of influence on their network of clients' decision making, as do your neighbors, as do family members who, for those that like to share details, they like to talk about the rate that they got or the house price that they paid. And sometimes it's a good thing. They like to brag that they paid a lot for a house, right? Which is like social currency for them. Or sometimes they like to talk about how they got a house for a discount, which means like you might have missed an opportunity then in that case, right?